In the workshop on combining evidence-based and Dakota teaching methods, we help you create this list of activities you see here on the right. So if you haven't already, please take that workshop. So I know what communication skills will be used in each activity, and now I'm putting them into a sequence that will make sense for the students. So I know that describing a silent video requires lots of different phrases, and that will need to come near the end since these are total beginner students. Another activity that requires lots of different phrases, plus they have to think on their feet in the language, is playing Guess Who. So that's going to come at the very end. So we have lots of time to prepare for that. I'm graying things out here just to make sure I don't forget to put everything on the calendar. Taboo is a game where they describe a word they can't say or don't know. I know from experience that this is really challenging for beginners, but important. So near the end with that one. Now, learning to sort animate and inanimate has to come after they know the names of lots of things, but at this stage, we're only looking for comprehension, not perfect use. So that can go in the middle. They'll need to already know have and have not by that time so that they can say baduhe, wicha baduhe. The Simon Says game is where they practice giving and understanding commands, and it's important because we're preparing them for an immersion classroom where they have to do that. It can come fairly early on once they know some verbs. We'll put it there. Go fish can come fairly early in the course because they only need to know 10 or 20 objects, have, don't have, and the interaction for asking for something and giving it. We'll try that in the middle of the second week. Uno is actually even simpler to play because they only need numbers to 9, 4 colors, and have or don't have in order to play. So that can come really early. Playing an arcade game where there's movement directions is a little complicated. They have to know the commands of the verbs as well as the directions to move in. So that can come at the end of the third week. By contrast, memory, where they only have to just say what card they have and then whether they have the match for it, is easy enough to play in the very beginning, as soon as they learn have, don't have. Voicing over a cartoon means breaking out and speaking on their own and not just repeating, but I've chosen a very simple cartoon, so they can be ready for that on day 10. However, having them do their own cartoon means using more of a variety of phrases, so that's not going to work until the middle of the next week. Their first experience of an authentic story is going to be simplified for them and illustrated, but it still means encountering many new words and abstract concepts like wakang. So that's a big challenge toward the end of their first month. We'll start with just understanding that level of complexity. They're far from producing it, but they will be able to feel a real sense of accomplishment to understand an authentic story. Explaining a news story does mean improvising, but with a small number of known words, so they can handle that by the beginning of the fourth week. We had playing memory and just saying what card they have as one of the earliest tasks, but having to tell someone else which card to flip involves movement instructions, so it's more advanced and it's a good prep for the arcade game activity, which will use the same phrases only faster. Now, a game where they identify an image that someone is describing using like, don't want, isn't too hard, but we won't learn those auxiliary verbs until the second week, so it'll have to go in there. Introducing a toy animal we give them comes really early. They learn to introduce themselves, ask about a second person they're talking to, and then third person allows them to talk about the animal. And we'll add in something simple that they can say about the animal to make the activity fun and a little creative. So that goes very early. Now, saying their mood in response to how are you, Dokadiaoha, requires knowing the possible responses, plus the why because phrases, plus some possible reasons why they would be feeling that way. So that's early, but a little bit of a challenge. Probably around day 8, they will be able to do that. Now, this task where they describe what's happening in a picture of a classroom means knowing their verbs in the third person. And it's a good activity toward the end because it ties a lot together. It means that they will be able to do group work in the language and talk about each person's job in the group and complain to the teacher if they have a problem. So that can come in the middle of the last week of the month. Describing animals, what body parts they have, and how they're different is a pretty complex task, but it's good preparation for the final activity of playing Guess Who. So, beginning of the 4th week will be a good time for them to attempt that interaction. And finally, doing an intro conversation where they talk about their moods, a second person's moods, in different times is more complex than the simple introduction interaction that we did in the beginning, but only by knowing those words for today, tomorrow, yesterday, and then the future marker, kde. So they should be ready to handle that by the end of the first week. So once we have the calendar of the tasks they're going to be able to complete, we can start building out each day's lesson to get them prepared to do those tasks. The calendar tells me what phrases they need to learn and practice by when. If I follow that, they will experience success when they attempt the task and be able to build their confidence in using the language in real life. Of course, I'll be constantly adjusting all the details and shifting the calendar as needed according to how the class really progresses, because we always want to keep the students at the center and make sure the lessons serve them and not the other way around.